Happy September, everyone. How are you today? We have some upcoming celestial events. I took some notes so I can provide you with the most accurate information possible before we get into the all signs reading that I will be doing for this month of September. First and foremost, we have the total lunar eclipse, also known as a blood moon, occurring between the 7th and the 8th. That will be visible for my friends that are in Asia, Africa, and Western Australia. We have the new moon on September 21st, which is also right along with a partial solar eclipse. That will be visible from New Zealand, the South Pacific, and Antarctica. We have the autumnal equinox occurring on September 22nd. And then we have Saturn in opposition on the 21st, which means it's going to be a little bit bigger and a little bit easier to see, but it's still best seen with a telescope. We have Neptune in opposition on the 23rd, and that is also best viewed by a telescope. Now, let's take a few minutes to talk about how this month is going to start off. It will start off with Virgo energy. Happy birthday to my Virgos. This one is a big one for you guys. It also is one of those things where you guys influence and your sign influences directly how we think, how we communicate, and how we set up our daily lives. We also have Uranus that will be squaring with Mercury, and Venus both together squaring with Uranus, and that will catalyze unexpected shifts in perspective and in your values. Then we do swinging back to that eclipse. That will be in Pisces, and that will bring in a call to surrender to the known and trust the unknown, which is a little bit different for most people. We have our new moon, which is, like I said just a minute ago, paralleling right with that solar eclipse in Virgo, and it opposes Saturn and Neptune, which will highlight crossroads and new beginnings. So how does that pertain to the all signs, or every sign, all 12 of them, in the upcoming months? Instead of speaking to each individual sign, it's going to be a little bit easier to kind of categorize into the fire sign, earth sign, water sign, and our air signs. So we're just going to do a quick spread and see how all of that information pertains directly to everything else that's going on this month. I may do readings as we get a little bit closer to those dates and kind of narrow it down a little bit. This is just more of a broad, generalized reading for that. As you can hear, I'm shuffling my cards. And for those of you who aren't familiar with somebody shuffling cards, there you go, just a quick shuffle. I like to shuffle until the cards feel like I'm done shuffling. That's how pretty much everybody I know shuffles cards. There are a few people out there who shuffle differently. If you caught the video with my daughter, she's one of them. My husband also shuffles differently. I've seen people who shuffle like this, which is a little bit different for me, but it's still just as effective if you're shuffling that way. Or I've seen people, and I'm not going to do this, smear them all out on the table, kind of mix them up that way, and then put them all together. Personally, I just like shuffling like a normal deck of cards. So we're about done here. I'm not turning them or anything. I'm just cutting them like I would a normal deck of cards. And we're going to do a typical or standard Celtic cross. I feel like that would be better for an all signs reading than doing a past, present, future reading, which would be a 3-card layout. Those are the two spreads I typically use versus some of the others that are out there. Those are just the ones that I'm most comfortable with. Not to say I can't do other spreads. So we're going to do it. Actually, I think I'm going to lay it out 3 or 4 cards by week. instead of a Celtic cross. A Celtic cross doesn't feel right. So flipping right to left, excuse me, the first card is the World. This is the first week of September. Second card is the Elder of Wands. And I'll pick these cards up again and show you as I flip them. The fourth card is the Four of Pentacles. And like I said, we're going to do 4 rows. That's for 2 purposes. Number 1 is each row will be the specific signs, and I will call out like earth signs, water signs, air signs, and fire signs as we get to that row. But it's also for the individual weeks. So however it feels best to you and feels like it might most apply to you in your life, that's how to accept it. If it doesn't feel right in that week, then and another week does, then accept that one. This one is the Magician. Remember, any of the major arcana cards are help from a higher power. So that's week 1. Week 2, 8 of Pentacles. Let me get a little bit closer to the camera. The Hanged Man. This is another major arcana card. Not necessarily a bad card. Judgment. Also a major arcana. 4 of Wands. I'm going to shift these up a little bit. I'm using a different tripod this time. This one actually sits on my table versus off the table, so a little less room. Next week, we have a 3 of Wands. The Initiate of Swords. The 6 of Swords. Pull that back a little bit. We have the Justice card, also a major arcana. Before we get started, I'll list off the major arcana for those of you who are paying attention and like that sort of thing. The 7 of Swords. The Ace of Swords. The Elder of Chalices. For those of you who aren't familiar, chalices are your cups. And the 3 of Chalices. Okay, so I'm going to set these cards off to the side. The major arcana week by week. Week 1, we have the World card of the Magician. Week 2, we have the Hanged Man and Judgment. Week 3, we have the Justice card. Week 4, there is no major arcana cards. That's not to say you're not getting help from a higher power for that particular sign. It's just to say that it's probably a little bit more background than in the forefront of everything. So week 1, this week feels very much like it is my earth signs. So week 1, this is a World card. This one starts off with, wow. This one is a lot of grounding going on, and that is kind of indicated by just the feeling of that week. There's a lot of different things that are on your mind, a lot of different things that are kind of coming to the forefront, different things that are going to come into play for this particular month for earth signs. And there's a lot of movement, but not necessarily physical movement, just movement in different areas of your life. This one very much feels like there is a lot of movement this month for things that are emotionally charged, but also things that there is perhaps some financial struggle coming up with. That could be just maybe balancing your checkbook and realizing that things don't line up quite right. You might want to pay a little bit closer attention to that, but we'll get there in a minute. The Elder of Wands, which is week 2 for the earth signs, is kind of a breather week. This is one where you kind of maybe had a little bit of a rough first week of September. Moving into the second week, you kind of get a little bit of a breather, and you kind of have that opportunity to take a step back and recalibrate, look at everything, and decide how you want everything to go for the rest of the month. Week 3, this is where we were talking about maybe paying a little bit closer attention to finances and paying a little bit closer to things. You may have an unexpected financial situation come up. Perhaps maybe you might blow a tire, or you might end up having just a random expense. Doesn't necessarily have to be something big, but something that you hadn't planned for. And then the Magician, also that major arcana card, that is in week 4. This tells me that you very much need to kind of regroup this month, and very much just kind of, I call it shadow work. People would say maybe journaling. Bullet journaling is a good thing. Just taking that time to, especially before fall really starts to set in wherever you may be. For those of you who are in the southern hemisphere, it would be where spring might be setting in. Kind of just, we're changing seasons. You need to take stock. Earth signs especially really need to get that food for the soul. Get out, put your hands in the dirt. Maybe you might go and hit a place where there is pick your own fruits or pick your own veggies, or go and have a picnic in the park. Something where you get out in nature. You guys very much are going to need this with this changing of the seasons. The next week, or the next row down, this one very much feels like air signs to me. So that's how I'm going to read it. For the first week, 8 of Pentacles. So air signs, you are going to rock and roll this week. You have got a lot going on, and you very much are just in charge of the world, and you feel like you've got the world at your feet, and you've got things just rolling for you. Roll with that this week, because the next 2 weeks for you are going to be a little bit more challenging. So while you've got the world by its horns right here on week 1, hang on to that for the week following, because the week following, the Hanged Man, let me bring it over here for you. This, a lot of people take this as a bad card. It is not a bad card. This is your card that tells you to pause, take a step back, and look at the bigger picture instead of focusing on all of those small, tiny little details. And air signs, y'all are known for paying attention to tiny, tiny little details. You need to take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Especially because the Judgment card is coming into play in week 3. Now, this isn't to say you've got a lawsuit and, oh my God, things aren't going to play out the way you want them to. No, this is to say that taking that step back and looking at the bigger picture is going to allow you to make some better decisions in that 3rd week. You're going to have some things that come up, that come into play, that you need to have, yes, all of the details, but you also need to be able to see the forest for the trees. So if you can do that, then week 4, the 4 of Wands, is a very, very positive card. And that week has some unexpected, happy, and good news for you. So make sure during these tougher weeks, if you're a person who practices gratitude like I do, you very much pay attention to the bigger things as well as the smaller things that you're grateful for, because those things that you're working on manifesting and you want to bring to you are going to come into play. You're really going to see the fruits of your labor in that 4th week. So we've done our earth signs, we've done our air signs. This next week feels like a water sign week. So week 1 for the water signs. This is a 3 of Wands. Yep, had to double check that one. It's hard to read it backwards in tiny print. 3 of Wands. This is a week where you really want to pay attention at work. Maybe you're gearing up for a promotion. Maybe you are gearing up for a big work project. Sometimes with water signs, your emotions tend to be overpowering. And this is a week where you're going to be a little bit more balanced, but try not to let your emotions get the better of you, especially in the workplace. That is very much a big thing. There's something coming up in that first week for the water signs, and where this is a general reading and not specific, then I can't get too detailed on it because it's not really coming through to me. However, I can tell you that, and it's funny that what would typically be like an air sign card is coming through so strongly for you, because I'm going to tell you that this is one where you want to pay attention to your dreams. So if you wake up and you've got a dream and it's in the forefront of your mind, write it down and then go back to it and look at it later. Keep a journal next to your bed. Jot down those thoughts that you have that are maybe kind of just running amok in your brain before you go to bed, which is probably not a bad idea for most people anyways, because you're going to start to see a pattern to those things, and you'll be able to better determine some of the the cycles that you're repeating, which is going to be pretty big come week 3, when you are dealing with some pretty emotionally catastrophic stuff. This could be anything from maybe you just found out that your favorite aunt was in a wreck, or your best friend or you are fighting, or you and your significant other are going through a rocky patch. However, at the end of the day, that week, while it may be rough for you, is ultimately overall going to pay off in your favor. This is a major arcana card. This is a justice card. So no, all is not lost for you this week or this month. You actually are going to have, in general, a pretty good month. The justice card does not always mean on a legal level. The justice card can be in a lot of different things. Maybe you were in a situation where you were being accused of something you didn't do, and it comes to the light that no, in fact, it was not you. That could be where the justice card intervenes. This is a major arcana card. You do have some help from a higher power. So we've done our earth signs, we've done our air signs, we've done our water signs, and now we're into our fire signs. So week 1 for the fire signs. This is the 7 of Swords. Oh, my fire signs, and I'm a fire sign, so is my husband. We are feeling that travel bug, something fierce. We are feeling the change in the weather, the change in the seasons, and we are feeling it all the way down to our souls. So that wanderlust is starting to set in. However, that does not mean that you need to suddenly take a 4-week cruise to the Bahamas, or you need to suddenly take a trip to Europe or whatever. When that wanderlust sets in, you could go on a day drive. Maybe go explore the next town over if you've never really explored that. Or you could go for a hike in a new area. Something to get out, get into nature, get your feet on the ground, and do a little bit of traveling. You could even take a short day trip somewhere. Take a couple hour drive and go explore that town or whatever that area might have to offer. That will help with that changing of the seasons and that wanderlust setting in. Next week, or the second week in September, this is the Ace of Swords. This is a pretty big card for us insofar as much as that wanderlust was setting in, now we're starting to kind of nest a little bit. We're starting to acknowledge, however grumblingly, that the seasons are changing. There really isn't anything we can do about it. So we might want to find something to do over the course of the next season. In the case where I'm at, it would be winter. In the case of, well, all of the northern states and all of the northern hemisphere, we are going into winter. But a lot of us are begrudging that because a lot of us would rather be outside playing in the sun. As you can see, I've gotten a little bit of sun myself. And we really don't want to be holed up in one place because of snow and ice and all of that other stuff. We're starting to come into a little bit of acceptance there. Although we're still out in the sun, we're still having fun, we're still playing. And also, there may be a new hobby or two that's picked up in that second week. The Elder of Chalices. This one is a mature female, as you can see in the card. This is also an emotional card. This one says to me that there's something that we have been working towards that we are very much emotionally attached to as a fire sign that is going to come to fruition or going to come to a head in some capacity. And that is, looking at the lady in the card, this tells me that this is something that we've been working towards for a while, and it's finally starting to accumulate, finally starting to come to a head, come to a boil. That last card, the Three of Chalices. Chalices are cups, remember that. That's emotions. That is something that tells me, just looking at the card and the overall vibe, that things are going to go in our favor. And it's a very positive card. This is going to be, well, albeit probably a little bit stressful. It's the end of the month, so a lot of us have rent that are coming due or other bills that are coming due at the end of the month. This is one where we can sit back and relax because everything that we've lined up is been taken care of. We can relax and regroup and prepare for the next month. So thank you for joining me for this all signs reading for the month of September, and stay tuned because I do have other videos coming. Love and light to everyone.